All right, this is my daily update from my build and public log. It's February 4th, 2025. I just recorded this and my app that I'm using crashed. And that was a pretty good video. So let's see if I could do better this time. I don't know why the software I'm using, it's been buggy lately. It's really pissing me off because I'll do like a recording and then it just crashes and I lose everything I recorded. It's very just a waste of time and frustrating. Okay, so I'm excited to share with you what I got done, and I want to talk to you about like how I'm self-hosting all of this and my like how and why I set it up. So first of all, I managed to stand up all the things I've been working on for my API service. So there is a backend server that serves up the endpoints and kicks off the job queue service using Bool and queue that talks to Redis, which I actually will talk about soon. I actually replaced Redis. There's a database, all this good stuff. I got it on the server. And before this call, I broke something. So I reconfigured something and broke something. But anyways, it's working basically. And it will be working very, very shortly. And I wanted to explain how I'm hosting this and kind of my views on how best to do this. I believe that you need to do your very best for security. It's one part of your product, your process. You don't want to half-ass. You don't want to just like leave to chance. You don't want to blindly listen to the AI and not try to do your homework and do your very best. Think about security like you would your house or wherever you're living. Do you want to just leave the windows open at night, the doors unlocked all the time? No, you don't want to do that. You want to obviously like lock the door. You want to lock the windows. Maybe you want to get one of those chains that you lock from the inside. Maybe a home alarm. You got to do those minimum, in my opinion, steps. Don't mess around with it. And if you have let's say you have the locks, you have a good system, you keep everything locked, you have a home alarm, where you arm it when you leave and it buzzes and an alarm goes off and notifies somebody. Is that going to stop like some elite team of like thieves like that were really determined to get into your house? No, probably not. They're going to probably find some way to disarm it, get in there. But 99.9% of people that can maybe pass by and check the door handle and try to get in, it's going to probably stop those people. That's what you're trying to do if you're going to self-host. Are you going to stop the NSA from hacking you? Are you going to stop a state actor from hacking you or some extremely sophisticated, team of hackers? No. You're probably not going to. Like, I'm going to be just blunt. But are they going to care about your stupid little API server? No, they're not. You want to stop like that 99%, just like you would from people walking by and trying to break into your house. And I actually have a real story to share about security. Pretty scary stuff. So twice, somebody tried to break in, a kind of home invasion while I was asleep. Twice. One time I had to physically run to the door and like physically stop them. Pretty scary shit. And the second time it happened, my girlfriend and I were asleep. And again, security. I really mean what I'm saying here. We had this, she had this big, like, special chain, like a real thick, heavy, not like a normal kind of hotel. I don't know if you stayed at a hotel, this flimsy little thing. I mean a big honking chain. We were asleep and three guys, we saw video footage of them, so we know what they look like. We didn't know who they were. They somehow got into the building as the security sucked, unlocked the deadbolt and tried to get in the middle of the night. And that chain stopped them and it made a really big loud noise. It woke us up. It stopped them. And it prevented us from being robbed or God knows what horrible thing would have happened. if those men would have gotten in there, and that extra layer of security, like, could have probably saved us from a serious disaster or emergency situation. You want to do that as best as you can for your security when you're self-hosting. Look, like I said, if a state actor or something crazy is going after you, are you like Google? Are you going to stop them? Probably not. But those people aren't going to go after you anyway. So stop. Don't worry about like weird, unlikely things. Worry about the known possible exploits. Okay, like things like, let's say you have a MySQL database, and there's all these like scripts that people run that try to find exploits. Don't worry about some crazy, unlikely hypothetical of like a state actor coming after you or some nonsense. Like, for example, that chain. Yeah, somebody could get in the building. They did. Somebody could get through the deadbolt. They did. Somebody could still get in and try to get into the house. So same thing. So with that in mind, that's how I approach security for self-hosting. It's still scary. I'm going to be honest. I worry about it all the time. I like the zero trust approach. That's where you trust nothing. Don't even trust having access on the machine. Even lock that down. Like, for one example is changing, having a new user so you don't SSH in as root. Don't have zero trust, as little trust as possible. So how I built this is like this. This is, pretty basic. There's no access to all the various services. So, well, kind of. I'll get to that in a second. So let's say I need to connect to Redis on my local computer or the database to go just query, look at some data, look at a table, inspect some data. All of it's blocked off from the internet, from the public web. There's no access. The only access is through the website. So port 80, port 443. So, when you use SSL, that's you use 443, HTTPS. And there's firewalls for everything, blocking everything. Obviously, there's SSH. I can SSH into the box. I change the port. I like to run on a different port and do the normal security steps for that. And that's it. But what if I am local? You might be wondering, well, how do you run the app locally? Local Redis instance with just, like not using the same data that's in production. And database, just have a test database, a local test database. Well, let's say I need to get in and I need to and look at some data. I need to check something. I want to look at the tables in the database. I put it all behind a Telescale private network. I'll leave a link in the description for that. Another really popular one is Zero Tier. That's a free one too. That's a good popular one. That's like Telescale. So I included that as a second option if you want something a little different. So what that means is, when you query something on your local network, 10.00.100 or something, what that does is that sets it up and firewalls it in a private network where you can ping, like I could ping, the database or Redis or whatever I need to, like it's a computer at my home, like on the local network. You've reduced the surface attack, okay? And so often what you'll see when you're self-host, it's not really hackers. It's fucking bots, like just killing you. Now a big problem is with all the LLM AI stuff is these scrapers and tools that are running around wild. They don't respect anything. They just hit all these endpoints. They don't respect your robots TXT and they go wild. So sometimes what I'm seeing the most is not like scripts trying to exploit and hack you. It's like really abusive bots. And like, let's say you have Redis open on the default port. Well, guess what's going to happen? The bots are going to run and they will look at every single IP address with the Redis port. and they'll hammer away. And then somebody will get flagged, and maybe someone will look at it, or someone will run a more advanced bot to try to hack it. Yes, you should have a password and do all that stuff, but like, why get hammered by bots? Like, so block everything. So how does it all work? You might be wondering. It talks to itself locally, and you want that to be like in a true zero trust environment. Like, it would even use SSL to talk to each other. Like, no data is even locally transmitted around it on the local machine. You have Docker containers that are like really locked down. There's so many things you could do, and like I said, I'm not going to go real deep into all of that stuff in this video. It's a bit out of scope, but essentially this is all talking to each other. Like, the backend talks to its, Redis instance, the database locally. There's no going out of the server. There's no going out of the network. There's no public access. And if I really need to, no worries. I can just securely access it behind the network. So about that, one other thing I did was after doing a bunch of research, decided to drop Redis, and I'm trying out a new service, which I'll leave a link in the description. This is a new replacement for Redis. So it tries to be an extremely more efficient version of like drop-in replacement for Redis. And let me tell you, I had to do some work. It was not a drop-in replacement. But in their defense, they say you can replace it in a day. And yeah, okay. So Redis scales fantastically. Redis is great. I'm not hating on Redis. But yeah, it can get costly. And yeah, you have to scale it a lot. And the philosophy is make it use your resources much more efficiently so you don't have to scale it like crazy. I'm trying it out, so I will report back, but it looks fast and it looks pretty interesting. So I want to use the limited resources I have as efficiently as possible. Let's put it that way. And look, it even talks about they work together. Bull and Q work together to make it work for Bull and Q. So like right on the landing page, they talk about it. So I'm sold. If that makes it work more efficiently, then yeah, I'm sold already. So I dropped this in and I did a bunch of work to get that working. The data modeling, I need to get that working. So there's actual user accounts. You get a real API key. That's my update for today. Now let's jump to comments and questions. Let's see what we got here. Really appreciate this type of content. You are what I consider a visionary developer. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. By the way, I'm sure the woodpecker thinks you were weird. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Came across your channel through YouTube recommendation. Good recommendations for someone who is starting out, doesn't have a lot of experience, especially by the fact that you give real examples of what entails each one of the entities of your diagram. Slightly toward the premature optimization, not something that you need to care too much. API changes are too expensive. Aren't too expensive from an engineering perspective. Yeah, I agree. The job queue is likely to be a problem from the client perspective. I would likely to design the API that takes some sort of request config as a parameter. For example, request TLL. Let me move this. One minor suggestion is to be slightly more concise and direct. I think if you had some use cases and walked through the diagram, you could have made the flow a little bit more simple to understand. Yeah, I'm working on that. This is unscripted. I do want to have a scripted channel where it is like much more concise and direct. I agree, it's something I'm working on. Like I said, there is a big difference between having a scripted channel and like everything is you're reading a script versus just off the cuffs. It's hard, but I agree. Thank you so much. Yeah, so on to my random story for the day. So this one time when I was living and traveling around Mexico, I worked remotely, okay? And I had this laptop, and that was fairly new. It wasn't even that old. Well, what was it? I think it was the fan died. Something died in the computer. Just it wouldn't run. It was super overheating. And this was an old Linux computer that was, pushed to the max. Because I did, do development work, and when you run all the services locally, it pushes the computer pretty hard. And so the fan or something burnt out, and I scrambled because I had a day job. I had to show up every day to work. And I found a repair shop, and I was like, hey, here's the problem. And they're like, okay, we'll get back to you tomorrow. Didn't get back to me. I showed up at the shop. Hey, what's going on? I need this computer fixed. Like, oh yeah, about that. We see the problem. We need this and this part. Okay, cool, no worries. Oh yeah, we have to order it from abroad and get it from here and do this. It's going to take a while. Well, how long is it going to take? I don't know. 3 to 4 weeks. 3 to 4 weeks. I was like, I gotta work here. I can't. Like, I gotta go to work today. I literally cannot. I literally cannot wait. Like, I can't wait a month. Like, what the hell? Okay, well, I don't know. So they're like, that's not our problem. And so I had to like go find one of these fake Apple stores. It looks like an Apple store, but it's like an authorized reseller. And I ran Linux, and I didn't run, like, I didn't use MacBooks or anything before. Only at a previous job, but I ran a Linux computer, and so I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go get a Mac. Like, I can't stand this, like, PC thing where the computers just break. The Macs do the same. So I went down to this Apple store, and I did pull out my credit card and buy a computer on the spot, just because I needed a computer like that day. And I was even late to work. I told them, hey, I'm going to be late. And I had to buy a brand new computer, set it up frantically, and get back to work. Like, I just had no choice. And then, like, a month later, I got the computer fixed, and then I sold it to somebody. And the guy, I'll never forget the guy. He was like, hey, it's really loud. Like, why does it get so loud? Whoops. Of course, they installed some janky fan that they got from God knows where. And the fan was really loud. I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I replaced the fan. And I didn't know it was going to be so loud. And he was like, okay, it's fine. I'll live with it. But I felt so bad. This poor guy, he said it was super, super loud. But yeah, sometimes you got to drop everything and buy the computer. All right, that's all I got for today. See you tomorrow.